Um,
Yeah, welcome back everyone to the Wildcat Fanalytics. I'm Jesse. This is Mike, and our apparently weekly breakdown and discussion of all things Wildcat basketball.
it's good to be
Welcome,
back.
yeah, welcome to the world, Miles.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
my baby boy, my second son was born last Thursday night at Hogue in Newport, and mom's healthy, baby's healthy, and I somehow snuck in that he's named after an Arizona great. He's Miles Michael Defoe, which is awesome.
that's a sweet name, man, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you still found time to watch the Wisconsin game, which is going to be our starting point today. So why don't you lead us off with your takeaways?
Yeah, and just real briefly, we got a little delayed in getting out of the hospital, and I was joking with my wife. I'm like, I'm gonna one star the S out of Hoag Hospital if they don't get me out of here in time for me to see this Wisconsin game. I was deeply looking forward to this one. You were worried about it. I know that you were. I was very worried about it, but I was trying to be vocal about it. Um, that was obviously a lot of fun. I thought the Tommy presser afterwards was one of the best pressers that I'd seen. So if anybody's out there that is watching us and has not watched that presser, pause, go do that, come back. It's really good. It's just, it's so rare that you get a game like that where you're really firing on both sides. Thought the defense kind of slipped a little bit in the second half, which I think Caleb acknowledged after the game, but that's okay given how much of a lead we had and how effective we still were on offense. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. I know that you did a good thing. You were being a good dad during the game, and maybe not just out of fear, but out of love for your son. You were doing something with him, and then you watched it later. Is that right?
I think that gives me a little too much credit, but I'll take it. I was prioritizing my son, but also it conveniently helped me avoid the stress of watching it live. So
You weren't
yeah,
alone, according to board members, in that feeling,
yeah,
right?
yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
a wild experience as a sports fan that I want to go into probably in the off season if we're interested.
yeah.
Did you have any other? Yeah, so
So
yeah, go
big
ahead.
takeaways.
Yeah,
Big
let's do
takeaways. I
big
did.
takeaways.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I obviously the defense was fantastic again, which has been a calling card for us. Wisconsin was supposed to come in as a big team that rebounded well. We, if you want to say, if you want to look at us and be like, oh well, your small forward's only 6'5", that doesn't. Oh, your power forward's only 6'7". That doesn't express how big this team is. They're just strong. They're long, and they have a maturity and attitude about them that is bigger than the stat sheet. And so I think this is a very big team, a very competitive team on the boards. I thought that Wisconsin was going to have to play a balancing between, and it's kind of obvious, right? Between, hey, do you stop Arizona in transition, or do you crash the glass? And they weren't honestly very successful in either of those. So they tried to pick their poison and got poisoned by both. There's some other stuff that I've got some video for that I'm super excited to share, but we'll save that for video. Big takeaways for you?
Big takeaways for me were, I think my concern was coming from a place of just all the like sports fan trauma of Arizona history and feeling like we don't deserve to have it this good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I started thinking Wisconsin is to Arizona as Arizona was to Duke at the beginning of the year. We're
sure.
sitting fat and pretty at number one, and we're going to play a defensive role with this team
On our
coming in
heels.
and asserting its will, and Wisconsin coming in with the victory over Marquette and Michigan State back to back, sort of playing psychologically with house money. I just made up this whole story about that, and it turned out to be as far from the truth as it could get, which was incredibly surprising. I looked at it. One of my favorite little things to do. Sometimes I go to bed early. I'm an early riser, so I don't see a lot of those late Pac-12 games, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be freaking stressed out at 10:30 at night after a UCLA game. So I'm like, I'll just watch it in the morning on replay. And so I sometimes what I like to do is I open Ken Palm and I look
Hmm.
at the Ken Palm ratings before I look at the score. And I looked at this one on Saturday. I made myself wait till 30 minutes after the 2 hour mark of the game. And I'm sitting there in the gym with my son, and he's playing on the Ninja equipment. And I see us ranked two with like all of our stats went way up. And I was like, holy crap, we must have. I figured it was like 86-62 or something. I could not fathom that they almost hung a C note on those guys like that.
Yeah,
That's really amazing. So the takeaways for me, I had the big takeaway for me is that we were able to assert our will and play freely and intensely, not scared and protective. That's a testament to all the words Tommy says and any coach says can really come across as platitudes, especially when you've
sure.
lived through the Sean Miller era where, in November, all the coach and the players are all saying the right things, and then it just looks anything but that in on the court. And so when Tommy comes out and he has all these platitudes about culture and playing together and being unselfish and playing hard, now we're starting to see what it can look like when that takes hold, I think. And it was astounding. Just the effort. It wasn't perfect. I mean, there were definitely pathways for Wisconsin where I could see the game turning into a different type of game. And
Yeah,
On Saturday, we didn't let that happen and we shot well enough for that not to happen. And they missed enough shots. And I really think as we talk about Purdue, the big thing that I said last time was the best defense against Arizona is to make shots.
yeah,
And
totally.
and I'm excited to see some of your film because I'm guessing, we can discuss ball screen coverage and how we helped. Greg Gard said it after actually watch Tommy's presser, but then also watch Greg Gard's presser because he talks about how we baited them into long twos, which is about as good as you can do, I think, in a ball screen coverage against a really good offense, which Wisconsin is.
Yeah,
And I think you had the stat of the day. I think they were 19 for 49 on twos.
yeah,
So that was the
yeah.
difference. That was the difference. Aside from
Yeah,
Philly B's dominant offensive rebound free throw display in the last 2 minutes, that was the difference.
yeah. And speaking of Philly, be a little disappointed that he didn't get more run in that game. Tommy did roll out Paulius in the first half. Interesting to keep an eye on that for those of us, watching intently the back of the bench, the back of that rotation to see, if either of those guys, which of those guys emerged. So kind of cool there. And then on the free throw front, obviously we could have done a little bit better, but Wisconsin went into that game being just a really dominant free throw shooting team. They generated a ton of fouls, and if you look at the wins that they stacked up prior to going into Arizona, a lot of it was driven by their free throws. They just weren't able to do that against Arizona. Maybe a little home cooking, but with the whistles, I think it was relatively fairly called, but I think it was more generally just that, we didn't have to commit fouls in order to defend them, because of the strength and the length and the maturity that I was describing, right?
They missed a couple that would have benefited Wisconsin, but let's be fair. They settled for a lot of contested twos, and those are
Yeah,
not where fouls come. So they
yeah,
also they also really let Wisconsin. Um, in the first half, there were 3 or 4 calls where, as soon as an Arizona defender put a body on a Wisconsin player, it was a foul. And
yeah.
so I don't really buy the
The home
officiating.
cooking
I
argument.
think I think it
Yeah,
was like similar to Michigan State. It was just odd. It was like kind of just inconsistent. But unlike Michigan State, I was glad that they sort of let them play more physically in the second
they
half.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
I was happy with it.
we're not here to
Um,
talk about officials, but to be fair,
we never are.
Wisconsin fans, we get it. It's hard. It's really hard to see your team not how you know it, and then have a couple plays. I thought, the block on Store
Yeah, yeah.
definitely was a foul on Umar, and
There's a foul. Yeah.
and that turned into a huge play. Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I thought, it was a great erase. Same thing as Billa said, and then you saw the replay, and you're like, he got a bit of, didn't he get a bit of the arm, didn't he?
Totally.
That leads, that's an interesting play because it reminds me of what we forced them to do, though, which was, you know, Larson got kind of, you can say, oh, he got blown by on that play. I mean, he forced his guy baseline,
Mhm.
and then Store drives into our two post defenders and Kishad Johnson, Kishad
Yeah.
and Umar.
Yeah.
Like, I had Wisconsin fans, chirping about, Larson can't contain Store. I'm like, that's actually what he wants him to do.
Yeah.
Like that's the, like he just put him between four defenders if you count the baseline. Five if you count underneath the rim, and so I think we did do a pretty darn good job of forcing
Yeah.
them into even what looked like that you blew that coverage or you let the man go by. A lot of that was intentional. Of we're just sending them into areas of the court where we feel comfortable with them taking a shot because
Right.
it's a pretty low percentage look.
And I'm starting to appreciate more Tommy's concept. It's really like the era of basketball where you can compare individual matchups is not really it's a really hollow description of what is actually happening on the court with
Right.
man-to-man
Right.
defense these days. And
Yeah.
I don't profess to understand it as well as, better basketball minds, certainly in our peer group, but
Sure.
I understand enough after having seen them live against Michigan State and sort of like he was hesitant to make the adjustment until late in that game
Mhm.
and it saved us. And then coming through Colgate, which I think was a good primer that you could see the difference in the coverage, though I can't describe it in detail. And then it looked like the Wisconsin coverage was what we could have done to Michigan State. And
Yeah.
maybe you're gonna
No,
illustrate some of that.
I,
Yeah.
I wish I could. The unfortunate part about extended highlights or highlights in general, because we can't. Matthew Loves Ball, RIP.
I
My
know.
favorite YouTube channel, Matthew Loves Ball. I think he's got a second one coming up, or I've seen some clips out of it or some videos out of it, but I can't consistently find it yet. So I'll try harder there. But so what I'm working with here is ESPN highlights. They did give us 8.5 minutes or so. So
Yeah, it's
cool.
good.
What you don't get though is a lot of defense, unfortunately, and even in the
Yeah,
Matthew
I
Loves
know.
Ball stuff, you don't get a lot of the defense. And so I remember maybe last time we talked, or maybe the week before, there was some KJ Lewis and Jaden Bradley stuff that I
Mm,
really wanted to show as far as
mm,
their ability to navigate ball screens, as as the point of attack defender. I still would love to show some of that. I don't we don't have that, but maybe at some point we're just going to have to do some screen capturing of the game live
mm,
while it's playing and so we can share some of that because those guys are super underappreciated.
mm.
And I think, you know, let let's jump into the video if you don't mind.
Yeah,
And so
let's
and
do it.
because this is a good jumping off point. I was going to start with something I love and then something I thought was maybe worrisome and then something I love. Sandwich style. I don't want to hurt people. We're gonna go straight. We're gonna go straight into something I'm a little bit worried about.
Are you saying
You
Cats fans are fragile?
we just described that.
I am. I
Both of
can't
us
even watch. I can't even watch the game live. So
both of
yes,
us went into this with like deadly fear.
we're
You know,
wounded. We're wounded
we
animals
we
in the
are
desert, man.
wounded. Yeah, I mean, good Lord, if we had
When you
lost
when you've lived
the number one,
the tournament history that Arizona Wildcats fans have, you deserve to
yeah.
be like a little rattled.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like my insurance should pay for the therapy. You know what I mean? Let's see. Let me see where the bucket was that I'm looking for here.
Yeah,
So
while you're looking for that, I'll just
please.
say, are you going to show Keyshot at all in this game or not?
Yeah, there's some key shot. Yeah.
Because I remember we actually have this little thing going where we're starting to be a little prophetic accidentally.
Yeah.
You and I spoke about before the game, or at least I expressed my nitpicking concern that, Tubelis provided a really stable amount of consistent 2-point offense. And
Hmm.
and lo and behold, we open with like two buckets from Keyshot in the paint in half court sets, which he
Yeah.
doesn't, he's probably got a handful of those really in
That
half court sets against tough defense. So that was cool.
struck me as well. And
Yeah.
that's really funny that you mentioned that because that definitely struck me in real time where I was like, that's
That
I
changes us.
I want to see out of him, and
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting it, and I was very very happy to see it.
That changes us. We're not going to always get the steals and the dunks, but like if you that's the bulletproofing. If you can get him going in a half court set against a tough team and he can score in there, ooh, that's
Yeah,
deadly.
spooky stuff. So
Spooky.
let's do a
Let's
quick
do it.
screen share. Share screen. We're so technologically advanced here. I'm gonna um, see to do, and then how do I pause my video so that is mine? Do you see it? You got me?
I got you.
Okay, it's as long as it's not choppy. So concerning for me, and this is something I was concerned about heading into the season. Really fast ball handlers. You know, Kylan's way out of this play at this point. Chucky Hepburn kind of diced him up. Some of that maybe we were okay with. I doubt we were okay with the amount that it was here. That not even Keyshot can clean that up on. But there was a more than a few plays that I thought, and especially early in the second half, where Kylan was behind on his ball screen defense. Just really wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't giving the effort that you would hope. Um, and so that's something that still sticks with me. That here's that play again. Boop, he is gone, gone again. And so that's something that still sticks with me. That is a concern. Heading forward, who's going to be able to beat this Arizona Wildcat team? I think quicker ball handlers is a concern because while Kylan is a really strong guard, he yeah, I've seen it a few times now. And I'm not trying to slander my guy. He just hasn't given me exactly what I'm looking for out of his ball screen coverage. I don't know. Did you see any of that? Is that something that rings true for you, or am I just weaving scary stuff in my own head?
I think I wouldn't jump to a characterological concern about him. I think
Uh-huh.
again, he's 18, and I think he looks really focused on implementing the offensive practice that he is training on,
Yes, I agree.
And
I
so
100% agree.
so I think for most of the games that I've watched, he looks pretty dialed in defensively. And I also trust Tommy and Kylan are both in it for the team first. And I think he just needs
For
some
sure.
guy he just needs some game reviewing guidance. But you're gonna
Yeah,
get he's gonna get all he can handle a week from tomorrow against Mark Sears. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and I do wonder, how much of it was like, hey, look, he needs to control the amount of energy that he's outputting,
Hmm. Hmm.
to allow himself to be the offensive player that he can be, which is an incredibly dangerous offensive player. Um, and then additionally, in the Tommy presser, he talked about Jaden Bradley and, hey, Jaden's got this toe injury and that's holding him back a little bit. And so he wasn't moving quite the speed that he was looking for. But he said, hey, I needed Jaden out there to try to contain 23, which is Chucky Hepburn, who we just saw carve up our defense right there. So we do have, God willing, Jaden returns to good health really quickly, but we do have Jaden Bradley, who is kind of a monster, I think, on defense as far as navigating ball screens. He's just really slippery and long, and as well as being athletic and strong. And so, great combination. I've got a lot of faith in him. Want to see his offense keep coming, but at least we do have him, to help us there on the defensive end.
He made it.
Um,
He made a catch and shoot three. He's shooting 60% from three.
yes, he is an exceptional catch and shoot. we'll, we'll see. He's made a couple now, and I'm really excited that to see that out of him. All these guys we talked about it. All these guys, you hope that they're going to hit catch and shoots, right? Because they're
Well,
going to get those chances.
and what I like about Jaden is even through the rocky first 5 or 6 games, he's not forcing things. He's not getting.
No.
He's kind of coming to it from a more calculated place, and I think it's. I'd rather with this team, I'd rather have him do that because I
Yeah.
think whenever he gets there, when he really is full go in terms of intuiting his place on the floor, which I don't think is there yet, then
Hmm.
then he's going to take a little leap where he can just like he won't
Yeah.
have that little decision making
Yep.
hesitation because it won't be processing through that executive functioning. He'll just be in his second
Hmm.
nature. He's going to have a game like he did, what was it, Belmont or maybe Arlington, where he had 13, where he's just like he gets a steal and he gets a floater and he gets a three and he's got an and one, and all of a sudden he's got 10 points and 6 assists. And I think that's
And,
going to that'll happen a handful of times. It won't happen. He's not going to do that every night this year, but I think that's what he can turn into next year.
and out of what he already gives us for him to get that on the offensive end, you're like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
this guy is really really helpful. And to speak to your point about the executive function and it coming more naturally rather than being something that he has to consider, there was a shot attempt by him in this game where he got to his spot on the floor, but it looked like it took him a beat before he realized that he got to that mid range kind of elbow jumper that he likes. Um, and then he takes it and he just wasn't quite in rhythm. And I'm just thinking, gosh, I can't wait for him to take that next step where, like you said, that's just ingrained, where he just naturally intuitively feels that he's at that spot and he can take that rise up in rhythm and
You
probably
you
hit
could
that.
yeah, you could see it a little bit last year in the first half of the season with Boswell, and then when he
Yeah.
got comfortable and he just sort of relaxed into the game, then the percentages
Hmm.
skyrocketed. And
Yeah.
so I think Jaden's on that path as well.
So, and additionally, in terms of like settling in, this game was so helpful for me in terms of my confidence for our bigs getting some good chemistry together. I thought that the high low passing was nice. I love it. You know, that's that pass is so simple. But it's such a staple of our diet as Arizona basketball fans and under Tommy Lloyd. And so I didn't see enough of that previously. But boo, don't front Omar and think that that's going to work out because Keshad and him have now developed a bit of a bit of a nice rhythm. And then here's the same with our guy
Montiellos.
Montiellos, Mount Krivas. No, not ideal, but because he didn't get it, but gets right back to him. Look at him hang the gooseneck, hand in the cookie jar. Just
love it. I mean,
yes.
the greatest thing about these two is that they both involve Johnson, because he came in
Yeah.
with the biggest question mark about him is he doesn't really have the passing skill set. And so I've seen him
Yes.
as he gets more confident in that dump down, then that part of the offense can really open up. And if, the jury's still out on whether his 3-point shooting is going to be a overall plus for the offense. But if you have to start being honest and check him there, then that high low becomes even more possible, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I think that that's about the best as we can expect, don't you think? Is that you just kind of have to respect it. It's not going to be, I don't think he's a 35% three-point shooter this year, but if he's at 32% and he's only taking a couple, I think you probably have to worry about him out there, which is enough to mess up that, where you're starting to get into executive function versus being kind of intuitive out there as a defender, right?
Well, if somebody has to come at him and he can, if somebody has to come at him, then maybe, again, I don't know enough about their offense, but maybe Caleb or Pella has that half step on the wing where then they can
Yeah.
get the wing angle entry to Umar, because Umar at this point he's so. I mean, this is another testament, as you mentioned in the beginning of the show, the impact of experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just height and length, it's desire and experience. And Umar,
Yeah.
say what you want about him, and I've been pretty critical of him over the last couple of years. He knows the offense well enough that he can shift and be a step ahead of the defense, and that's where he gets position, like in that first highlight you showed, right?
Yeah.
See, look at that.
And
Look at him there. Like he knows that he's right there. He can receive that pass from Caleb or Pella.
Yeah. And love what this one is. And I think this was commented on the Wildcat Authority board. As always, shout out Wildcat Authority,
Yeah.
wildcatauthority.com.
Jason Shear.
Yeah, but this is Pella with who had and I can't believe we've gone this far without saying, oh my God, Pella, like this is the game that we've always wanted out of you. Do it, 30 more times or whatever we have left. Heck of a game. But his maturity and his intelligence within the system, I think we've harped on it after he was knocked out of the Michigan game with some foul trouble. His maturity and intelligence in the system provides such a boost to how well the offensive flows, and you've noted that. So Larson directing traffic here. I don't know if that was too choppy to see, but he receives the pass on the wing, sends Keshad out, and then Keshad is able to get the high low because he sees that follow, has that incredible positioning down there.
This is a beautiful testimony of Pella, but then also an illustration of the cumulative impact of having multi-year guys in Tommy's system that we couldn't really see until this year. And now you've got at least those two who have been here 3 years.
100%. One more, Pella. I'm gonna wrap up my love affair. But patient, and follow. And the amount of looks that Ballo got at the rim in this one, and goodness gracious, wasn't this one Caleb Love in transition. Ballo. How he got to this ball at his size is nuts to me. thought that
It
was
might work smoother, by the way, if you turn off the audio on the actual clip.
uh,
Yeah, there you go. It's
see,
also
let's
hard.
see.
It's also hard to hear you over the audio, so that might help.
I didn't know you could hear it. This is the level
People
of
people want to hear your genius, Mike.
this is the level of technology. But yeah,
But
just
that he was able to get to that ball and finish it is pretty
yeah,
impressive.
that he's able to get to that ball, that he's able to finish it, the familiarity, the comfort. I honestly, I want to go back and like count, how many alley oops we had before this game, because we just had a ton in this one, and I thought with the team that we had coming into the season that we were going to get a lot, and it feels like that's becoming more commonplace now, and so I'm pretty psyched about that.
Totally.
I got some stuff on Kylan that I want to share honestly because the guy finished the game was on a 7-0 assist to turnover. I think he was like 2-2 in the beginning of the game, and then went with 7 assists with 0 turnovers, and that was just I thought in the beginning of the game he looked a little bit young,
Yeah.
and he really settled in. I'm going to share some of that, as a follow up, but very cool to see out of him.
Why don't if you want, why don't you make your own little package there and we
Sure.
could send it to folks after we do this as a little prep for Purdue.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing about Pella. Another thing you and I spoke about was that in the preceding two games, Pella had one 3-point attempt, and I think Johnson and Lewis had 11.
Mm,
And we've been calling for catch and shoot Pella as one of the best shots in our offense. And
yes.
I want 4 to 6 catch and shoots a game. He's currently, courtesy of Hoop Math, he's currently shooting 60% from three. He has 100% of his threes assisted, which would belie the catch and shoot, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that's similar to Jaden Bradley. If you only take premium looks, then the efficiency and again, maybe those two, it's a balance, right? Because you also don't want to go 0 for 1 on a Pac-12 weekend when we need you to get shots up. But he's only taking premium looks. He's also, I was looking up on Hoop Math. I don't have to show the screen. It's just like his balance. So Hoop Math divides it into, as you know, percentage of field goal attempts at the rim,
Hmm.
percentage of field goal attempts as 2-point jumpers. I assume that's sort of like between the paint and the 3-point line,
Uh,
and then percentage of field goal attempts that are 3-pointers. And Pella is like almost a third in each. Like
wow.
nobody has that balance, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that balance is ideal, but what I am saying is that having a guy whose effective field goal percentage is 70, which his is right now,
It's
who's
crazy.
you can talk about this today or another time. The stat I'm curious about is the ratio of free throw attempts to field goal attempts, which sort of like
Nuts.
it sort of fills in the gap of saying, points per possession or points per shot, which I know you're going to talk about with Zach Edey. And
Yeah.
Pella's at like, even with his disastrous free throw efforts, his uncharacteristically disastrous free throw efforts on Saturday, his percentage is still about 84, and his percentage of free throw attempts to field goal attempts is 84, which is almost unheard of. That, and
It's crazy.
I think what that means is 100% of that ratio would mean one free throw attempt per field goal attempt, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Which is almost, unheard of. And
It really is.
most
No,
guys
it
are in
really
the,
is.
Kylan Boswell's like 9% or something. He barely takes,
And,
right.
and I think back to a guy, one of my favorite Wildcats of all time, polarizing guy, Alonzo Trier. I love Alonzo Trier. I thought he was a wildly efficient and productive player for us, largely because of his ability to generate free throws. That's just a super productive, super efficient way, obviously, to score when you're a good free throw shooter. He had a real knack for it, and I think he was like in the 50s. Like that
Mm.
was like you're like, oh my gosh, he has a 50-something% free throw rate. Boom, you're one of the most efficient players in the country. Pella's at like 85. Like
Yes.
what it tells me is that I want to see Pella shooting more, and I said that previously. Glad to see him doing it here, and I think we saw Tommy actually run a couple of sets for Pella. I think I have a video clip I can share later in a follow up, but that where I believe Balas had a pin down screen or which Pella curled off of and had a wide open. So using Pella as like a motion shooter now, not the quickest motion shooter, but like bringing him off a screen into for a catch and shoot three. Wow, Like that's cool.
I want 4 or 5 of those clean looks a game because
Yeah.
it totally changes how you have to guard us. As Greg Gard said, and we've
Yeah.
all, all Wildcats fans have known that. It's not a revelation. Pella's a 40% career 3-point shooter, and
Hmm.
um, um, if not better, once you really eliminate some of the adjustment time and injury time. Like really at his
Sure.
core, he's a 40 plus, he's an elite catch and shoot shooter. He's
Yeah,
never
he really
gonna
is.
he's never gonna, pop up off the dribble or step
No,
back,
it's not his thing.
but we don't need that, fortunately.
No,
So
we don't. No.
we've
No.
got we've got a few minutes.
What else do we have to talk about?
Which direction do you want to go? Do you want to say anything about Purdue, or do you want to like
Please, I
all
know
right,
that you have some. I mean, we guys, we have a big game against Purdue.
here's what I'll
You,
say quickly. I think
yeah.
what we're talking about with Pella really segues well into Purdue. I can't decide if Purdue and Arizona are perfect foils for each other
Mm.
or just like fascinatingly oddly matched teams. And I think maybe it's or maybe a little of both. And
Yeah.
I think what I've noticed about Pella qualitatively is the confidence talk about him the last couple of years. It's like he looks like he is 100% full go on attack. And
Yeah.
his wisdom and experience and decision making on attacking, whether attacking means pass, shoot, or drive, his his foul rate is absolutely like maybe one of the most efficient offensive weapons in the country right now. And I don't know that it will
Hmm.
be against Houston or UConn or Kansas if we play those teams, but what I want to see against Purdue is not be baited into shooting a bunch of threes, as we just commended his 3-point shooting. But I mean,
Sure.
Caleb and Kylan, like attack. I want to see Kylan get in the paint. I want to see Caleb attack. I want to see Pella attack.
Yeah.
I want to see us, if we're gonna go down, let's go down attacking, not just sitting back and shooting threes. There's a lot that goes into that, but that's kind of my transition from the Pella talk.
Yeah. And in the beginning of the game, I think if you rewatch the beginning, like 10 minutes of the Wisconsin game, we did kind of fall into that trap where it was like, oh, it's a missed jumper. Oh, it's a missed jumper. And you're like, come on, guys. Obviously, they were able to get out of that, whether that's good coaching or just, these guys being made.
Self-awareness.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, on the flip side, from on the defensive side, I am really encouraged. And like you said about, hey, this looked like something that ball screen defense that we played was super effective and tough. I, I thought that the defensive adjustments that we made against Duke that we've highlighted previously, where we were hard hedging, and then changed that to a switch where we had our four, Johnson playing on Filipowski, who I think was playing in the 5 at the time, and then having Umar play the drop and just kind of sit in like his own little zone was really, really fantastic. And so I think there's a lot of good confidence that you can have. Purdue is a really, really difficult offensive team, right? I mean, and you queued it up for me. Zach Edey is having a historic scoring season right now, 1.9 something points per possession, essentially points per shot attempt for him. That's, I mean, what you're saying is that almost every single time he shoots the ball, he's getting a 2-point bucket.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And he doesn't shoot threes, so it's
Right.
not like you're
Right.
getting inflated.
He's doing it the
That
hard way.
he's doing it the hard way. And so he generates a lot of fouls because he's so massive. He's so massive, and he's able and he's so skilled that he's able to get 2-point buckets. So how we're able to defend him obviously is critical. I think additionally, and I said it previously, the guys need to stick to the scouting report, and these guys have been lauded by Lloyd for being really. Our guys have been lauded for being really tight on their scouting report, sticking to it, knowing it. So that's awesome. But Smith, hasn't been shooting well, but is a good driver of the ball. I'm sorry, flip that. Smith is a good driver of the ball and a good passer. I want our guys to play up into his jersey. Their 2 guard, Fletcher, right?
Lawyer. Yeah.
Lawyer. Yeah, thank you.
And then Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, good shooter. Not as great of a. I'm sorry, bad shooter, very good driver. Want to be able to play off of him and respect the drive and demand that he shoots. So I have some confidence that our guys, via the execution that they've shown and the scouting report, like toughness that they've stuck with mentally, I've got some confidence that we're going to play them well. But very few have, so it'll be interesting.
It's the most fascinating game we've played in the Tommy Lloyd era in terms of how Tommy will approach tactics
Yeah,
because
yeah,
because Edie's and this offense and Matt Painter, as you've mentioned, his genius, they're incredibly efficient and all different styles have failed.
yeah,
I think it's a trap to overfocus on Edie, but I think you also have to have a real clear intention. And
yeah,
that's thankfully that's Tommy's job.
yeah.
But I think the big, never reduce a game to one or two things. I think at the top of the list though are going to be foul trouble. I'm praying that
Hmm.
the officials just let these guys play on both sides
Yep, yep.
and how our guards, what tactics work because Purdue is so versatile. They shoot the three at 40%. They're not like I think you have to disrupt them in the ways that teams disrupted Arizona last year, except they're a better version of Arizona last year.
Hmm.
And Tommy's going to have to look at that and say we have to suffocate their guards into being really uncomfortable and make it like the best defense against Edie might be keeping the ball from him. He
Yeah,
does
100%.
the
Totally agree.
stat I was gonna show, and then I gotta end this in a minute, is that the one little like part where Edie is kind of human is his 2-point field goal percentage is quite low.
Oh,
Yeah, it's in the 30s. And not I'm 2-point jumpers. Not at the rim.
jumpers.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
at the
yeah.
rim, he's like 1,000%. But like
That
his
makes sense. Right.
jumpers, his if you can get him to face up, he's pretty human. And
Okay.
so I think it'll be a question of can you push him out? Can
Are we
Balo
allowed to
improve
push
this?
them out?
Right. Can you push him out to the elbow, for instance, at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
high
totally.
post?
Yeah,
Um, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm not at all as scared about it as I was for Wisconsin because if you lose, you're going to learn a lot and it's a helpful loss.
totally.
If you win, it's an amazing win.
Hmm.
And I think I just want to see us play hard.
Yeah, I agree. If any of these last three games that are very, very difficult that week that I could stomach us losing, this is certainly that one. Though the other two games certainly are going to pose their challenges as well, and those respectful opponents as well. But this is going to be super interesting.
So we're cutting it a little short. There's a lot we could talk about. Maybe we'll each do a little solo nugget
We'll
on
follow up.
Purdue if we want, or we can just
Yeah,
follow up after the game this weekend. But
no promises to you viewers.
yep. Any final thoughts for you?
No, this has already been a really fun season. Let's everybody just embrace it.
Mm,
You
enjoy
know,
it.
it's
Enjoy it.
enjoy it, soak it
That's
up. It's awesome.
thank you for reminding me of that because I wanted to just, this stuff is not a given when you get these really special teams and amazing runs, however long it
Yeah,
lasts. They could
yeah,
go down and lose 5 or 6 in Pac-12. I don't know. But just enjoy the heck out of it. It's a special time and looking forward to keeping it rolling on Saturday, win or lose.
great. All right.
All right. Bear down, Wildcats.